You're watching Canadian Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. From Toronto, Ontario, I'm Catherine Bullock. Assalamu alaikum and greetings of peace. Today, a conversation about compassion integrity training. But first, some news headlines. Emergency Act invoked, a first in Canadian history. Fort McMurray Muslims pack 500 winter kits for community. Maclean's power list includes Canadian Muslims. Afghans slam US decision to use $3.5 billion of frozen assets for 9/11 victims. And now the details. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced yesterday that he is invoking the Emergency Act for 30 days, a first in Canadian history. The clause gives temporary powers to the federal government as they attempt to clamp down on Freedom Convoy protests. Trudeau said the protests are now an illegal occupation. Local police can be given additional powers such as issuing harsher fines. Banks can freeze financial assets if they suspect the money is being used to support the illegal protest. Premiers are divided on this decision, with Alberta and Manitoba not in favour and Ontario in support. Volunteers from Michael Islam in Fort McMurray, Alberta, braved the cold last week to distribute 500 winter and hygiene packs to those in need. Volunteers packed kits with hats, gloves, scarves, toothbrushes, toothpaste, soap, and lotions. Packages were picked up or delivered. Combined, over 250 kits were given to non-profit organisations, including the Salvation Army and Waypoints. Maclean's annual power list for 2022 includes several Canadian Muslims. Dr. Afua Cooper is listed under the academic category for her research and courses on African Canadian history. Omar El Akkad is included for his latest book, What Strange Paradise, which was awarded the 2021 Giller Prize for its modern reinterpretation of Peter Pan. Fatima Anvari, who Maclean's referred to as unbowed by Bill 21, is listed for public opposition to the bill that reassigned her from her teaching position due to her headscarf. Maclean's annual power list spotlights 50 Canadians it believes is leading the debate and shaping Canada's future. Afghans are protesting against Washington's plan to use half of the $7 billion in frozen assets to satisfy lawsuits over the September 11 attacks. In Kandahar, protesters held placards and shouted slogans to condemn President Biden's decision. People living in the country's northwestern Herat province say that this is an injustice to the Afghans. Diplomacy student Ali Ahmed Emirzadeh told Anadolu Agency that the hundreds of Afghans killed by US warplanes or bombings were not compensated either. On Saturday, Afghanistan's central bank rejected Biden's decision to split the frozen assets between humanitarian relief and compensation. And that's it for the news. The Cambridge Dictionary defines compassion as a strong feeling of sympathy and sadness for the suffering or bad luck of others and a wish to help them. You might be happy to know that there are people who are actually training us in how to be compassionate. Our next guest, Mohamed Dewji, is a compassionate integrity facilitator. Welcome to the show. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. Thank you for having me, Kathy.
It's our pleasure. Thank you for joining us. Just very briefly, compassionate integrity training. This might surprise people. What's it about?
Yes, it surprised me too when I first heard of it, and I was quite intrigued, and that's why I took the training myself back in 2019. Compassionate integrity training is just that. It's a training in compassionate integrity. So integrity, not in the sense of just living up to our values, but specific to those values that promote well-being to ourselves and others, and don't cause any suffering to ourselves or others. So that hence the term compassionate integrity. And it's a training. It's not just a workshop or a lecture series or anything like that. It's actually hands-on training where we provide specific tools and strategies to help us all be more compassionate.
We'll get into those in a moment. I just want to dwell a little bit more on the definition and understanding of compassion. One of the things I liked about this particular definition from the Cambridge Dictionary, and I don't usually start shows with dictionary definitions, but it had two parts, the feeling and then the wish to do something about it. That really struck me. Is that something that seems important to you as well?
Yes, and that's very closely to the way we define compassion in CIT. We define compassion as the wish to alleviate the suffering of another. So it's very much in line with the way we think of it.
And then you mentioned that it's not a workshop, it's a training. What does that actually mean then, to be trained?
It's I liken it to going to the gym and build muscles. You know, if I'm going to the gym 2 or 3 times a week, you know, I often tell the participants, you know, imagine you're going to the gym when you join these sessions and you are strengthening the muscle of your compassion. And the more you work at it, the better you get at it. So it's a practice-based training.
And that implies that it's something that we're not sort of like, quote unquote, you're not born a compassionate person or a non-compassionate person. You build it and train yourself for it. Am I right?
That's very interesting you say that. The CIT actually comes from a premise that we are all compassionate at the core. And I often kind of pose that as a debate question, because this question has been debated for centuries, whether we're compassionate or selfish at the core. But this particular program comes from the premise that we are actually compassionate at the core, and we're trying to go back to our innate nature, as it were.
So I know you're running a training series right now for Sound Vision, which is a sister organization to the To Us Foundation, who's doing this Canadian Muslim News. Let's pretend I'm a participant and not going. Obviously, we don't have time. But what will be included? What you'll be teaching me? Yes.
So CIT is a 10-week program. We would meet once a week for 2 hours. And each week we would, you know, explore a particular skill. So there's 10 skills in all, and they're broken down into 3 series. So the first 4 weeks we spend on self-cultivation. So we talk about calming our body and mind so that we're in a place of calm and clarity of mind, and we're not acting out of sheer emotion. And we go on to ethical mindfulness, where we learn strategies to control our speech and actions. We follow that up with emotional awareness and mental states, harmful and beneficial mental states that drive that speech and actions. And then the 4th week, we end off the self-compassion series with, you know, a section on self-compassion and exploring how we can think and alter our vision or lens sort of, so that we're not too hard on ourselves. So that's series 1. And then we move on for the next 4 weeks on series 2, which is relating to others. And here we talk about impartiality and common humanity. We talk about skills to help us forgive and be grateful. So, you know, forgive not just our friends and dear ones, but also be able to forgive strangers and enemies. And then we have, you know, a skill on empathic concern and compassion towards others. And what I really like about the CIT program is it doesn't just stop with self-compassion and compassion towards others. We move on in the last 2 weeks of this training to talk about systems and how we can bring it all together and behave compassionately in the systems we're all involved in, whether that's our family or school or work or government or whatever that may be.
That sounds very amazing and intense and almost even scary, like beginning out with the self, right? You have to confront all those, I don't know, I was going to say demons in ourselves, but I probably shouldn't use that word. That has been purposefully put together, deal with the self and deal with others, and then the system.
Right on, Kathy. Is the thinking is that I need to look after myself before I be able to, you know, alleviate the suffering of others, and I need to be in a position where, as one of my previous participants has put it, my bucket needs to be full so that I can give to others.
That's so beautiful. I'm sure that many in our audience are wondering, we have the Quran, we have the Sunnah, and the Prophet, peace be upon him, was called a mercy to all the universe. Why would we need to go through something like this rather than just, you know, studying Quran and Sunnah?
Yeah, that's an interesting and I think very important question. And I'll tell you for myself, it's because as a practicing Muslim, and how compassion, whether God's compassion or how we are kind of entrusted to be compassionate towards each other and the environment, that really spoke to me. And so what I would say is that yes, we have, of course, all the Islamic teachings, the Quran, the Sunnah. And the way I see CIT is not something separate from that, but rather very supplemental to that. So in a sense that, I've been attending lectures at the mosque and going to, Friday sermons or other lectures. I've gone through the whole Sunday school system here in North America, and it's done really wonderful for me. And all along, I've been, taught to be forgiving and compassionate, towards other fellow human beings. What I found in CIT is that CIT actually gave me the tools and the skills to be able to carry out that compassion. And when I'm not being compassionate, to actually self-assess myself and see, okay, where am I kind of lacking, and what can I work on? So in that way, the CIT is really supplemental and can really add value to my Islamic upbringing.
So it's kind of like the theory, and you said the tools for practice.
Yeah.
Do you offer this for Muslim and non-Muslims, this course?
Yes, the course is actually not specific to people of any particular faith or even people of faith. I have all sorts of people that have taken the training. And so I have a number of, some of the cohorts I've offered have been exclusively Muslim community just because of the people that I know. And other cohorts I've offered have a mixture of people from all different ethnic and religious backgrounds. And that's the beauty of it.
And have you ever been asked by Muslim groups or attendees to quote unquote Islamize it? Like, for example, you said you set complimentary, and I totally see how it is, but I don't know, maybe an example in class or a theory that you're putting forward, and then you would say, well, the Quran says this and this and this, or the Prophet told us this and this and this. Do you make those kinds of tweaks?
Of course. And that's the beauty of the program. So that if I'm facilitating a cohort, of exclusively Muslim participants, then by all means, with whatever, I can add as far as kind of putting in Islamic resources, I would do that. And I would invite the participants, because it's a very shared learning type of environment. It's very engaging. I would invite participants to share anything from their teachings or their background.
Well, with the rise of anti-Muslim hatred and all kinds of hatred, I think we all need to take this course. So how would we if we wanted to?
Thank you, Kathy. I offer a number of cohorts throughout the year, and you can email me, and I think my email is on the screen, Mohamed@rahmafoundation.ca. And I can put you on my mailing list so that whenever I'm offering a cohort, I can send you out an invite to register for that.
That's great. And we have to leave it there, but thank you for sharing this amazing course with us.
Thank you for the opportunity.
You've been watching Canadian Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Like, share, and subscribe. Stay safe and stay tuned for the next episode. God bless.